We've had quite an extensive drought here in Cape Town.
We faced a major crisis 2 years ago and the dam never recovered.
It's 5 years, it's 8 years. Why was there nothing put in place to protect from an actual drought?
People didn't quite take it seriously at first.
Essentially then the local authorities put in all kinds of restrictions, forcing us to reduce water.
And at one stage they estimated we will run out of water completely.
And as a result, we were hit with a water crisis.
You'll often find like lots of buckets and things around just to catch water as much as we can. This is 3 liters, this jar, and this is about enough to wash my body without having to wash my hair.
This drought was largely as a result of 3 years of really poor rainfall. In fact, 2017 was the worst rainfall that we have ever had on record. All the citizens of Cape Town, from businesses to neighborhoods to everyone, had to reduce their water consumption significantly. And that restriction or reduction was required to happen very, very quickly.
I felt like I was a bit spoiled before the whole water crisis, but after that we had to wash with 1 kettle of water or 2 minutes in the shower.
Everybody stopped using their baths. The bath became a storage space. That's where you would, keep extra things, or I even put planks over the bath and made a table out of it.
Huge eucalyptus trees, they take thousands of liters a day. So we had to start removing those trees to make sure that we get a lot more water running down onto dams.
Yes, unfortunately, I think the entire area saw a decrease in tourism. One and Only Resort was fortunate we kept up our occupancy rates quite good. And I think primarily it was because of our interventions that people were positive about.
In the midst of this crisis, everyone had to play a role. As a normal citizen, you needed to go down to 50 liters per person per day.
And if you went over that, then you were fined. Then what started to happen was that you would only be allocated a certain amount and then your water would be shut off.
When they were cutting off water, there was no explanation. You would wake up with water, and then during the day, say like around about this time, you don't have water. Even if it's not your residence that's overusing, they cut off water for that whole street.
We live in overpopulated houses. We've got families of 8 people maybe. If you think in the morning 8 people needs to wash, 8 people need to drink water and all of those things. There's food that needs to be made. So after the 4th person, maybe 4th person took a bath, the water has been exceeded. What do you do then? So it went from people borrowing maybe money when you don't have it, people now is borrowing water from each other.
During the drought, when people had changed their setups and they changed their tap fittings and they'd stopped filling their pool, etc., etc., there was still this hyper use of water. A lot of the high usage areas were some of the poorest areas because there were pipes that were broken, there were spaces that were leaking.
People feel like they were, I'm sorry if I have to go this route, but people feel like they were oppressed for a very long time. So when it's people saying, we don't have water, they feel like it's another trick.
This is municipal water. You're not allowed to use municipal water for building.
They're not gonna take them seriously. They're gonna act on the situation that they see now, thinking that it's just a phase. And then when they see that the water is back, they're gonna go back to the way they were acting before.
Each day you kind of learn, and everybody was very open with sharing techniques as to how they managed. And so we've basically got a whole lot of buckets all over the place that catch rainwater and then get used for different things. So mostly these will be about filling the toilet or watering the garden in this transition time. So it's a lot of maintenance, but there's no other choice, you know? An obvious one, I think, is the way that a normal toilet cistern takes about 9 liters of water. I mean, the fact that we know that now, like it's 9 liters of water. That's the 9 liter mark, but we've set it so that it doesn't have to fill to 9 liters. This is the lowest that we were able to get it to work at.
So this is a school, and then we used this part to save the water. We have what we call Jojo tanks. You catch water from the rain. You want to wash your blankets, you use that water instead of using the tap water. I think it's about 1,000 liters. So every time it's raining, after the rain has stopped, some people, even some from the back, they would just come here and ask for water. If the neighbor is not thinking about the water crisis, you have to think for both. You have to think for you and for them.
The vineyards you see over here, they are one of our top producing vineyards. Great flavors, intense flavors, and yeah, they're really important to us. Here is the map of the farm. You can see the blue spots over here. This is where we've actually got underground, so there's surface water running here, but over here this is also being fed by a spring. This is surface water running in here, and then we've got another big spring over here. Okay. Come here, boy. We were a lot more lucky because our farm was still receiving a lot of water out of the mountain, but it stopped with us. In other words, our neighbors already ran dry. So what we did is we put a pipeline over to our neighbor, and then we donated water into their reservoir, which they then obviously used internally to feed their vineyards. But so they ran dry completely. There was no more water, and it was just because of our support that they were able to continue farming and continue irrigating their vineyards. The water crisis affected our business as such because we had to make sure that we have enough water supply over here. But then also it does affect your business with respect to wine sales, because if the restaurant's shutting down, they're not selling our wines either. If the hotels have to shut down, they're not selling our wines either. So it's a really important level for us that tourism comes to the Cape and that the hotels have the chance to accommodate all those people and supply water to the guests.
I think across the industries, particularly the hotels, people are finding out now we were actually wasting water. And moving forward, the resort is really looking at minimizing their water usage footprint. We introduced various measures in terms of water restrictors. We pulled the plugs out of the bathrooms, we recycled water, we reused water. And then towards the latter part or mid part of this year, we actually installed a wastewater plant, a 40,000 litre wastewater plant. Effectively, from 220,000 litres, we're down to 60,000 litres of usage per day, which is a tremendous saving. And we're really at this stage looking towards reducing our consumption by another 20,000 litres. It was a sacrifice, but we also see it as an action of sustainability.
Basically, the rains came and Day Zero has been cancelled indefinitely. The dams are currently sitting at about 76%, so we're almost 40% higher than we were a year ago. And it has meant that we've got through this crisis. We managed to survive this summer. We never had a Day Zero, and we've come out of it stronger than we were before.
The positive thing about the water crisis, it showed people that you're actually wasting water. I think in your normal pattern of day at home or at work, there was a lot of wastage.
I think a lot of people that are perhaps a little bit more forward-looking, recognize that this crisis has resulted in a completely new way of looking at water.
There have been lots of different mitigating solutions that are still used, and why would I ever go back to not doing it that way, to being so consumptive with water?
I think that a lot of the investments that have been made in water-saving devices or water storage devices, those are still going to be utilized. So I think that we're going to be a far more water efficient city than we were previously.